Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. Through storytelling and conversational interviews, this weekly radio show offers listeners first-hand insight in starting and running a business, the ups and downs of risk-taking, and the commonalities of successful people. Connect with Kerry through her candid, often funny, and informative weekly blog, where you'll read and comment on life as wife, mother, daughter, and entrepreneur. And now it's time for Kerry McCoy to get all up in your business.
You're listening to KABF in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm Kerry McCoy, and it's time for me to get all up in your business. For the next hour, my guest and I will be having a conversation of curiosity and storytelling. We will be answering questions via phone and email and giving advice to small business owners and to people who dream of owning a small business. You may be asking yourself, what makes this lady qualified to do this? And I'll tell you, experience. So in a minute, you can email or call and ask me anything. My experience is deep and wide, and my advice is free. 40 years ago, with just $400, I started Arkansas Flag and Banner. Since then, it's morphed into simply flagandbanner.com, with sales nearing $4 million. That's worth saying again. I started Arkansas Flag and Banner with just $400, and today we have sales nearing $4 million. I started by selling flags door to door, then went to telemarketing, next mail order and catalog sales, and today we rely heavily on the internet. In addition, over the last 40 years, I've navigated Flag and Banner through 2 recessions and 2 wars. When people find out I'm that woman who owns Arkansas Flag and Banner, they often say, "Oh, I've heard about you," and begin asking me business advice. I amaze even myself with all the knowledge I've gained. If you call for advice from me, or my guest, you will not be given textbook answers or theory, but you will be given candid advice from our real-world experience. So be prepared for the truth. It's not always easy to hear. For instance, you may not want to hear this. In business, there are very few overnight successes. Starting and owning a business takes persistence, perseverance, and patience. When I started Arkansas Flag and Banner, I supplemented my income by waitressing, all while I peddled flags door to door. After 9 years, did you hear me? 9 years of working a part-time job, the company began to grow and solely support me. My first hire, a bookkeeper. My first expansion, the beginning of manufacturing custom flags. The next decade ushered in the Desert Storm War. Flags were scarce, so I added a screen printing department to meet the consumer demands. In addition to sales and manufacturing, Flag and Banner now has a purchasing department, shipping department, technology, marketing, call center, and a retail store. And I spearheaded each of these departments' development. My experience is deep and wide, and my advice is free. I hope you'll take advantage of this unique opportunity by calling or emailing me on today's show. Before we start taking calls, I want to introduce you to the people at the table. We have Tim Bowen, our technician, who'll be taking calls and pushing the buttons. Say hello, Tim.
Hello, Tim.
What's up, Tim?
That's my guest, Rich Cosgrove from Whole Hog. He's the owner and the operator of Whole Hog Cafe in North Little Rock, Arkansas. His education comes from both Hendrix College in Conway and the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, with a BSBA, whatever that is, in organizational behavior modification. I think he's going to be judging me. Rich's career began in corporate America. While still in college, he worked as a technician and repairman for Southwestern Bell, and he's a musician, played a little guitar. This all helped fund his education. After graduation, he had several stints with Alltel, first in operation management and later in employee development. From 1984 to 1999, about 15 years, Rich Cosgrove tested his entrepreneurial skills in a venture called Cosgrove Consulting, where he served as president and chief operating manager of his own company.
How did you find out all that stuff?
Because I read about you. There's more. Following his passion in 2007, Rich planned and secured funding for his startup, Whole Hog Cafe in North Little Rock. Rich says this about himself: it's a hobby that got out of hand. Here to talk to us about living the dream is Rich Cosgrove, owner of North Little Rock's Whole Hog Cafe. Welcome to the table, Rich.
I'm so excited to be here, Kerry, and we're big fans of yours, as you know.
Your wife is one of my best customers.
And I want to make sure we definitely have to mention Nancy, who is at least as responsible as me for this business. So she is, Nancy is vision. I'm merely execution. So shout out to you, hon. And I also want to shout out to our new partner, Tim Bryant. Tim, put down that 40 ounce and that telephone and drive. Tim's on the road to Stuttgart, and I just want to say hey to him. So.
Yeah, put down the 40 ounce on the phone. That's a good idea. So your bio said, and I quote this about you, that from an early age, you have been fascinated with the ancient technology of the preservation of meat through smoking, curing, and drying. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Early age is relative, isn't it? So I was roughly 20 when someone gave me a smoker, and I found out that I could properly treat and smoke meat, and it would stay just fine and delicious unrefrigerated. And I was fascinated with that.
I didn't know that. How long?
How long?
Will it stay perfectly fine?
It depends on how you cure it, how you smoke it, and how you treat it. But for instance, you can make sausage that is virtually impervious to decay or bacteria, and it will sit there. You make scrape mold off of it. Or a ham, properly cured. You've seen the hams hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Virginia hams. Those hams they'll last virtually forever.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And you just scrape the mold off and keep eating.
There you go.
That is a college kid's dream come true.
Kind of like cheese.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
And it's controlled spoilage. A lot of this stuff is like cheese, alcohol. All these things were developed years and years ago to preserve food.
But you didn't think that you were going to grow up to be a owner of a barbecue place. That was your hobby.
Well, first of all, I was pretty sure I wasn't going to grow up, and I'm still committed to that.
And I know you, and he hasn't.
But no, it was a whim. My friend John Adney, I want to shout out to John. John bugged me for about 10 years to do this until...
To do what?
To get a whole hog license and do the barbecue thing. And John finally pushed me over the edge, and here I am.
So how old were you when you started when you bought Whole Hog Cafe? Or when you started Whole Hog?
A little over 10 years ago, I was 50.
I think that's a great age to start a new business.
Sure.
Because you're mature enough.
Well, I referenced my previous comment, you know.
Yeah, that's right. So you went to school to be
I studied something called organizational behavior modification, which when you graduated with a college degree that sounded like that in the 1800s, as I did, you processed insurance claims in the back room of somebody's HR department. They didn't really have that. So I went to work for the telephone company because I had telephone experience. They trained me on the job as an engineer, and I became an engineer for many, many years. Fast forward to 1999, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar. If you guys don't know Tony Robbins, he's the big toothy guy, that big motivational speaker. Walked on fire. Yes, I did.
Did you really?
I did. I was inspired by Tony Robbins, and within 5 months, I had completely changed my life. Got a job with Alltel as a performance consultant, because now, fast forward to 1999 from 1980, the field I'd always wanted was there. Alltel took a chance on me, and I worked for Alltel for 5 years. People still come up to me in the restaurant and they say, "Boy, really bet you really miss Alltel, don't you?" Absolutely. It was one of the best real jobs I ever had. I loved that company. It had a great culture. And after 5 years working for Alltel, studying under a gentleman named Steve Mosley, who was brilliant, I went to work for a company that sold training and performance solutions to Fortune 250 companies. I did that for 3 years and made enough money to start a restaurant. What was I thinking?
Thinking you wanted to work all the time. So 30 years ago, you and your brothers became World Championship Barbecue Team. That was even before you owned Whole Hog.
That's right.
Are they in the business with you?
No, they're not, but each of my 3 brothers, were 4 boys a year apart, are arguably a lot better barbecue men than I am. These guys, all three, take it very seriously. And
do they still do it?
They do. They're amazing. My baby brother David is the head of our team, because David's going to have to be the head of whatever he's doing, and that's David's really good at what he does. But Jim, the baby of the bunch, is probably the most avid barbecue man, and Jim is also a prepper. Now, he's not a prepper in the classic sense of guns and ammo.
Doomsday.
No, he's ready for a 6-month electrical blackout or whatever. But Jim spends a lot of time curing, smoking, and drying meats and cheeses.
For Y2K?
No, just for a 6-month outage of whatever.
Yeah.
He just likes to play with it too. He's very good at it.
He's a little paranoid. But in a good way.
Oh, maybe so.
So you've got 6. So do you use your recipes at the whole family recipes?
No. I use the recipes that were handed down to us now
from Whole Hog Cafe.
That's right, and you're
going to have to tell us about that business model. I'm not sure about how that works.
Sure. So these guys started like I did with the barbecue team.
Who's these guys?
Ron Blassingame, Mike Davis, and Steve Lucci. Now, Mike Davis is called Sarge. He was in the Army, and he was a barbecue guy in the Army. Sarge is responsible for the recipes that we use. And essentially, I could sort of credit Sarge with the success of the whole organization, because he is the meat man. He's the best meat man I've ever known. He's the guy behind the core of what we do. Ron Blassingame, God rest his soul, Ron passed away about 5 years ago. Ron was a businessman, also a very good barbecue man. Ron was the kind of guy that would do the right thing no matter what it cost him. The kind of guy we all, we hope we are.
Right. I grew up with Ron.
Oh, did you?
He's
really?
From North Little Rock.
I just loved Ron. Ron worked so hard to keep us between the ditches in our first few years, and was mostly successful at it. But Steve, Ron, and Sarge were the first three. Now, they brought Ron's brother in, Mike Blassingame, who had been with Cisco Foods for 25 years. And Mike really turned the thing into a serious business. Mike was able to drive margin out of the business. They were wildly successful to the top line instantly, but Mike was instrumental in helping them actually squeeze money out of the thing, and that's the tough part of the restaurant business.
Yes, I would imagine the margins are low.
They are.
And the employee overhead is high.
The key things you have to manage in a restaurant are food cost and labor cost. So,
is there a bunch of what is it? Just when food goes bad, what's that called?
Spoilage.
Spoilage.
And,
yeah.
No, not in our case. Our volume is so
because it's smoked.
Well, actually, it's our volume. We cook so much food for so many people that it doesn't sit there very long.
It says you do 3.5 tons of meat a week.
3 to 3.5. Yep.
That's a lot of meat.
It's a lot of meat. It's a production operation, but it's something we take very, very seriously in terms of every single piece that we manage. So these things have to be whiteboarded.
So tell me about the business. You don't. It's not a franchise.
No.
And the Whole Hog in North Little Rock is separate from the Whole Hog in Little Rock?
That's right. If you want to get into this business now, you will be a franchisee. When we started, we were a licensee. The primary difference being, as a franchisee, the franchisor is able to dictate whatever they're willing to dictate or whatever they want to dictate. Uniform policy, your hours, your menu, your pricing, whatever they want to dictate. As a licensee, Ron said to us, look, here's the name, here's our business model, here are the recipes, take what you want, change what you don't. And we've made a lot of changes in North Little Rock, and we've kept a lot of things the same when the mothership has made a lot of changes. Nancy and I tried over the years really, really hard. We've always erred on the side of customer experience. We were willing to sacrifice points to the bottom line for good word and future business.
Yes, you have on your business card enchantment served daily.
That's right, exactly. I feel like it's important to define what business you're in and be able to, and that should be dynamic. And so we started out, we thought we were in the barbecue business, and we realized that barbecue is a hobby, the restaurant is a business. We were in the restaurant business. Then I realized that no, really not. We're in the hospitality business, because that you have to look at it like that. You have to play offense. You have to realize that you've got to make people feel good and make them happy. And then I read a book by Guy Kawasaki, who was the Apple pitchman in the early 80s. Jobs hired him. He was a jeweler.
What was it? What is it?
It's called Enchantment by Guy Kawasaki. Guy Kawasaki is now a motivational speaker and an author, but I read the guy's book called Enchantment, and I said, wait a minute. We've got to be in that business. We've got to be in the business of enchantment. We've got to make sure that when people come in, they don't, everybody's got good food and good service, or they don't stay in business anyway. But if you want to get good market share, if you want to really bring lots and lots of people in, you got to enchant them
with your floor, your polished floor.
Well, you got to have it's the pixie dust. It's the vibe.
The pixie dust.
That's what I call it. It's the pixie dust. You've got to have that extra something so that when you're eating in there, you feel good. And most people can't articulate it, but they know that when they sit down at Whole Hog Cafe, North Little Rock, it's a combination of the recessed lighting, the Bose sound system, the diamond polished floor, the original artwork on the walls, but it's our people. It's the people you're eating next to. It's a community. I do a monthly newsletter, and I have 6,000 people who subscribe to it, and they're my customers. And it's about 2/3 funky food and barbecue information, and about 1/3 shameless self-promotion. So,
so if people want to get on your newsletter, how do they do that?
Just hit our website at www.wholehogcafenlr.com.
What? North Little Rock. Whole Hog Cafe NLR.com,
and you can sign up for the newsletter.
6,000 people on your newsletter is a big deal.
And it's homegrown. It's an organic list that we've developed. I get your business card and I ask you if I can put you on my list. It's not we didn't buy this list.
You're an entrepreneur all the way. You never stop. So why are there no wings? Or do you have wings over there? I know the Whole Hog over here doesn't have wings.
No.
That's my favorite thing.
We don't have wings. We have to be really careful because our volume is so high. I know I keep kind of beating that thing up, but
That's fine.
It's what you want in a restaurant. Lots of people through the door. We got one window that we push food through, so it's like a picture.
You mean literally?
Yeah, literally. Picture an hourglass. So on the one big part of the hourglass, I've got my 3 to 3.5 tons of meat. On the other side, I've got thousands of customers, and in the little skinny part, that's my window. So anything I do. Any menu item that I add, anything I do to complicate the work of the highly talented people in that window slows down the flow.
Yeah.
So wings would be, we do wings for like caterings. If somebody wants wings, we'll do wings, or we do wings for special occasions. Carlton Wing, who ran for state legislature recently, is a very good customer of mine. We hosted a watch party for him, and guess what?
He wanted wings.
No, he didn't want wings. It was our idea.
Oh, he didn't. That wasn't his idea.
No,
he doesn't ask that everywhere he goes.
No, we just cooked wings and put them out there. I thought it'd be fun.
Yeah, that's good. So you started Whole Hog Cafe in 2007 with your wife, Nancy.
That's right.
Who is, you mentioned at the top of the show, she's
it.
My customer. She's my good customer.
And she
loves flags.
She is, I can't say enough about her. Nancy is responsible for all our success. Again, I'm an engineer by profession. Nancy is an enchantress and an amazing person by profession. And Nancy designed and built, she was the architect and the general contractor on the restaurant. And Nancy handles all the finance and the marketing and the big ideas, and anything that's worthwhile, the vibe that you feel, that's something that Nancy created. I'm the thing guy. I manage margins. I hire people, I fire people, I fix things when they're broken. I'm just the things I do are terribly pedestrian compared to what Nancy brings to the table.
You sound like a great combination, and I wish my husband would call me an enchantress.
I also want to mention that we have recently taken on partners. We're selling the business. We brought Daniel Bryant and Tim Bryant and Kristen Bryant on this last year. And so...
What do you mean you're selling the business?
We're selling the business.
You really are?
Yes. Timmy, you hear that? It's real. Everybody knows now.
So you're selling the business. How long is your exit strategy?
We've got a couple of years, and then we'll be able to decide if we want to stay in for a percentage or get out altogether. But our partners own about 14 other restaurants. So
they're good at it.
They're really good at it, and they're super good people. And so probably, what Nancy and I are talking about doing is maybe playing a larger role in that organization and bringing the key component to our success, which is our culture, bringing that culture piece into the larger organization.
Into all their other restaurants. A kind of a consultant.
Well, we don't know what it's going to look like yet, but that would be the word I would use. But, we don't know exactly how that's going to take shape. We're just talking about it right now.
Well, your entrepreneurial career is long. You had Cosgrove Consulting, and then when you got here, you told me you were a big supporter of KABF in the 80s, I think you said, when you were the very first microbrewer in the city of Little Rock.
In the state of Arkansas.
In the state of Arkansas, and you lost your shirt and had to get out. You're listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, and I'm speaking today with my guest, Rich Cosgrove, owner and operator of the Whole Hog Cafe in North Little Rock. Rich, I love how you call yourself the owner and the operator. To me, the specificity of your title shows the influence of your college education in organizational behavior modification and your experience in corporate America training. Can you speak about that and how you chose the words owner-operator to describe yourself?
I guess I'm kind of taken aback. I never really thought about it. I think probably I just plucked it from the lexicon.
What's lexicon mean?
Of the restaurant business, the list of words that people use to...
Well, most people call themselves the president. I'm thinking about changing mine to owner-operator. I like it a lot.
Well, it's kind of fun. I ran into a guy I knew from college when I was sweeping the front porch, and he kind of looked at me kind of funny. He said, "So Rich, you working at Whole Hog now?" I go, "Yep." Kept sweeping. He says, "What do you like? Maybe the manager or something?" I go, "No." Just kept sweeping. He said, "Well, great seeing you." So, titles aren't important. What's important is our culture. We have 26 employees. We have no managers. We have no job titles. We're completely flat. We have no turnover. Okay?
In the restaurant business, you have no turnover.
None.
That's bizarre.
Well, our goals are really simple. My personal goals, and I try to impress on the employees. I'd like for them to mirror these if possible. Number one, to have fun. Number two, make a contribution outside yourself. So we run the restaurant by the 4 R's: respect, responsiveness, responsibility, and resilience. And we expect people to treat one another that way, treat us that way, treat our customers that way, and, as important, our vendor partners that way. We're all one family, and everyone is as important as everyone else. We are a professional basketball team. And it's a very good analogy because everyone rebounds. We have people play multiple positions. No position pays higher than another. Again, we don't have names for those positions. We have names for the tasks that we perform.
Right.
But people don't carry a title, and we don't really carry titles. I mean, if I have to have one, it has to be, I guess, owner-operator.
Mm-hmm. That's why you're not the president.
Well, let's don't go there.
I like it. I could tell when I've never seen, I could tell when I read that. I thought, there's some thought put into that.
Well, again, it is our people and our culture that make all the difference, and Nancy sets the tone. I sort of fall into her groove, and for instance, you'll never hear any of us issue a direct order. You'll never hear anybody issue a direct command. It'll be in the form of a question or a suggestion. We won't make changes in the restaurant until we check with the employees and see if everybody thinks it's a good idea. It's everybody doing everything, everybody passing balls back and forth together, and nobody's really in charge. Everybody understands what needs to be done and fills in for one another and makes sure that everything gets done.
You give seminars on this topic, don't you?
Actually, I do.
I know. I can tell that. Is that what your seminars are about? Is team building?
No, I mean, that's just people don't ask me to speak on that subject. They want me to talk about the restaurant business, and so I speak to groups about the restaurant business. But I can't help but talk about how we do the restaurant business, because that's what I'm passionate about, is developing people and letting the people, once you give someone a sense of fulfillment and importance, it's off to the races. I mean, the sky's the limit. People don't work for money, all right?
They don't. I agree with that completely.
They work for three things: autonomy.
What's that mean?
The ability to make an independent decision that guides the business somewhere.
Okay.
Mastery, the ability to get better at something. And the most important of all is purpose. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. A reason to come to work that doesn't just have to do with getting a paycheck. That's unsustainable. No matter how much money you make, unless you have a purpose, to me, why come to work?
That is so well said. So do you mention that in your seminars, and do you mention the team building? And then what else do you talk about in the restaurant business that you could tell our listeners? Give us your seminar.
No.
101.
And my restaurant buddies out there will appreciate this. The painful thing that nobody wants to talk about, and I start seeing eyes glaze over, is margin management. Things that you have to do that seem to be very boring on the surface, that make the difference between staying in business and not staying in business. Look how many restaurants go out of business. The statistics are phenomenal. There's no other business with an attrition rate as great as the restaurant business. And in order to stay there, you've got to do a couple of things that seem to be at odds with one another. Number one, you've got to figure out how to spend money to enchant people. You've got to figure out how to play offense. But you've also got to be playing defense. You've got to figure out how to manage your margins, how to mitigate your waste, how to get your food costs as low as possible, and still provide an exceptional experience.
And not have your quality suffer.
Exactly.
So what do you tell them?
I have a spreadsheet and a chart.
Really?
And I've developed methodologies that I've shared with other restaurateurs, how to manage your margins. It's not rocket surgery. It's
rocket science.
No, rocket surgery.
What's that mean?
It's a combination of rocket science and brain surgery. You count things, for instance, and this. I hate to take up your time with this, but
no, that's good.
You do a weekly inventory, first of all.
Weekly. I bet no restaurant people do that.
Yes, they do. The major chains all do weekly inventories. The Brinker Internationals and the Yum Brands, and they also do daily counts of their high food cost items. So I have a system set up. For instance, when you buy a pork sandwich, my system automatically registers 5 ounces of meat, and so on, so that every portion that goes through the registers is tabulated. At the end of the week, I pull that down and I compare that to what I actually used. Physically weigh the meat myself each Sunday, and I take starting inventory plus purchases minus ending inventory, and I see exactly what it cost me. So I can tell you with scientific certainty what it cost me to put a pound of each meat on the plate that week, and I can make adjustments. I've got a dashboard. I can make quick adjustments. I'm not waiting 3 weeks into the next month for my accountant to give me his best guess at what my food cost was.
To find out that somebody on the food line is putting too much meat on the sandwich.
That, and there was a period of time that I was getting several days in a row. This was when I was doing it daily. Before I got it under control, and that's a whole other story. Losing money for 2.5 years. That's the key to our success. So I found out that I was getting inordinate yields on pork. I was getting really high yields on my pork butts, and that would normally be good news to an operator. But I had to think something was amiss, so I went out and I became the expediter for about 3 days. That's the person that pulls the plates out of the window and calls the number and hands the plate across. And sure enough, the portions looked small. I keep a small postal scale on the line where the little funnel is we talked about earlier in the middle. I keep a small postal scale on the line, and I'll throw it down there and I'd say, okay, Doug, give a shout out to Doug Hansen and J.P. Highfield, two of my best line guys. I said, Doug, show me 5 ounces. And under pressure, Doug can hit that every single time. And I said, okay, guys, let's get those portion sizes up. Portion sizes came up, my yield started to go down. I've got a very small range that I like to keep them within. I got to make sure that the customer's perceived value is extremely high without sacrificing major points to my food costs. And so it's a tenuous balance that you have to walk.
That's exactly what you were talking about earlier. Is it's a total picture. You see the whole thing. You have to have the enhancement from the customer's point of view, all the way to making a profit in the back kitchen.
You've got to be able to see the matrix.
I said earlier that you were an entrepreneur. You had Cosgrove's Consulting, and before that, you were in the beer business with
my former father-in-law, William Lyon from Fordyce.
This is a good story.
It is a really good story.
Before they had beer.
Before you could just go out and buy a DME brewery from Germany for $200,000 or $300,000 or whatever they charge for however many barrels you can make with a brew house that you can now buy prefab. They didn't have that when we started this in the early 80s. So we had dairy tanks and fittings, and we had a on-site plasma torch welder welding jacketed jackets for these tanks so we could cool the tanks, and we had to figure this out. We basically had taken a gentleman named Scott Riley was our brewmaster, and we took his homebrew recipe and tried to multiply it, and we had a 30-barrel brew house. And for you guys out there and you brewers out there, and I have some friends that are in the business, Scott McGee, my neighbor, is making some really fine beer out there right now. But 30-gallon brew house is big, especially for its day.
And you're using a home-brewed recipe.
Home-brew recipe.
And you're trying to multiply it, which never works.
Multiplied it. Didn't work really well. We threw out lots and lots of beer. And
how was the beer?
The beer was really good at first, but because it was homebrew, it had sediment in it. All right, so this being Arkansas, you had people picking up a bottle of it and going, "That gum, Margo, there's crap floating around in there. Look at that." That's the healthiest part of the beer, but we had to figure out how to filter our beer at that point, and that's when things started to go downhill. We're no longer producing bottle-conditioned beer. Now bottle-conditioned beer is connoisseur's delight, and a lot of people will actually pour off the beer and carefully save the sediment and drink it from a shot glass by
You were
itself.
ahead of your time.
Well, that's one way to put it. You could say we mostly made crappy beer.
So how long did you stay in that business?
About 3 years.
And then you got out?
I went right back to engineering because it's a non-perishable skill and easy to find a job.
Yeah, we don't have enough engineers, I hear today. I really do hear that we have a shortage of engineers today coming out of college. And then you started your own consulting business. Was it using your engineering?
That's right. Yes, ma'am. We did. I did telephone engineering, telecommunications engineering. It's not extremely technical. It's a combination of civil and electrical engineering. Basically, I buried telephone cable, figured out where to put it, and where to put the switching stations and the little pedestals you see out there, and it's like assigning a distribution network to a very wide area.
Why did you get out of that? Seems like a great business. Why did you get out of that? Too competitive?
Well, it's a great question because it's bigger now than it ever has been. That business is very, very big, and I have significant opportunities to get back into that business, and I'm considering doing that.
Yeah, it seems like it's booming.
It is. There's more fiber optic cable being placed in the ground right now than ever before. If you're a contractor or a telephone company and you decide you need some fiber optic cable, you want to order it from the factory, there's about a 9-month wait right now.
Wow.
It's big.
They can't keep up.
They can't keep up.
Is fiber optic made in America? Or
all over the world.
All over the world. Interesting. We got one more special song for you too.
Oh boy.
This one's a pretty popular mainstream one though. Yeah. But wait, we're going to have one phone call before we do a song. Hold on. This is reality radio. You never know. Hello, this is Up in Your Business. Caller, do you have a question? You're on the air.
No, just a comment. I just wanted to mention Beckert up in Rogers, Arkansas is one of largest fiber optic manufacturers in the state.
Really?
All right.
What's the name of it?
Beckert.
Spell it.
Bekaert.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
All right. Right here. Maybe you have a 9-month wait to get fiber optics from y'all?
I don't work for them. I don't know.
Okay.
So tell me what you do.
I'm a student,
Okay.
but I'm from Northwest Arkansas, so.
Cool.
All
Great
right.
place to live.
Yep,
Thanks for calling in.
sure thing.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy. I'm speaking today with my guest, Rich Cosgrove, owner and operator of the Whole Hog Cafe in North Little Rock. Rich, your professed motto is manic attention to detail.
Absolutely.
Are you a micromanager?
No, far from it. When I say manic attention to detail, I mean that the amount of meat that we cook and the amount of food that we serve requires, that's what requires management. You don't manage people. You manage margins. You manage things. You manage food. You lead people. So, no, not only do I not micromanage people, I don't manage people.
Did your corporate training prepare you for owning your own business? Is that where you learned all these skills, would you say? Or was it your education?
Well, I think it's a combination of, actually, quite honestly, it's mostly reading that I've done on my own.
You like self-help books, it seems like.
I like business books. I like philosophy books. I like books on physics. I like nonfiction books. I like things that add value and give me new ideas. I really don't have, everything that you're hearing. I don't have any original ideas, but I'm a pretty good aggregator, a pretty good assimilator of other people's ideas.
Do you put your list of favorite books in your newsletter? If you don't, you should. I think you've got another subject you could add to your newsletters.
Thanks for that tip. That is a great idea.
You're welcome. That's all but I have is great ideas.
Great ideas are...
So here is one of my favorite questions that I ask a lot of people. Not everybody, but when I have time, I ask people this question. And it's kind of a hard question. So here it is. Which of the 4 cardinal rules, and I don't mean Roman Catholic cardinals, but rather the Latin meaning of the word cardinal, which is hinge, pivotal. So thus, these are pivotal rules that are a little bit fluid. So which of these 4 cardinal, pivotal, fluid rules best explains your management style? And they are, he's frowning at me like he's trying to follow.
No, that's not a frown. I'm deep in thought.
Thinking. I know. I can tell you're thinking about this. They are the 4 cardinal rules which best describes your management style. They are prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude. And when I say prudence, I mean thoughtful, calculated, possibly conservative. That's definitely not me. Temperance, calm, steady.
No,
that's definitely not
never
me.
Been me.
Justice, keeper of all things fair.
It sounds a little rigid, but it's closer than the other 2 so far.
This last one, I think, is every entrepreneurial style. Fortitude, staying the course.
You certainly have to do that in this business. I know we did. This business requires a lot from you. It takes an emotional toll, financial toll, physical toll. So I would have to say that historically, fortitude describes us. And again, I have to point back to my wife and partner Nancy, because she exemplifies that. Nancy's sheer tenacity has gotten us through some tough situations.
Don't you think all entrepreneurs have to have that?
It's either that or luck, but give me luck, please. Give me luck.
I think they've all had a little luck.
Let me luck over. What were your 3 P's? Patience, persistence, and perseverance.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Give me luck any day.
So I would say that prudence. Would say that you are probably prudent. You seem like you look at the numbers. You tell people to keep your margins. That's pretty prudent.
Okay. I'll buy that.
And your temperance, I would say, is positive always.
Try to be. Again, I'm married to the most positive person I've ever known, and who wakes up sometimes in the middle of the night giggling for no apparent reason. And it's hard to be. It's hard. Someone who's always upbeat. To be around her all the time is amazing.
So you've been in the restaurant business since 2007, so it'll be 10 years.
That's right.
And you're going to try something new.
Possibly.
You think that's about you? What do you think about people who stay in the restaurant business all of their life?
I think it almost defines them. I have lots of friends who have been in the restaurant business their entire lives, and it's hard when you're in this business to break out, to be identified with anything else. It really is, and I've found myself in that same spot. You know, people ask me how my day was. The first thing I think about was, well, we had a great day at the restaurant, or we had a poor day at the restaurant.
Yeah, I think I would say that about myself too. I think I always think about my day in relationship to my business and how it's doing.
Well, don't you think that speaks of an integrated lifestyle, which is kind of,
I guess so.
I think it's a good goal, you know. Yeah.
So what does your day look like?
My nowadays, well, thanks to my partners, pretty much, although I handle most of the catering transactions, which is an all-day and all-night job. I'm pretty much always on call. We do a very large catering business. And other than that, I get my errands run, I get my workout in the morning. I go into the restaurant maybe about 10, and I usually leave before 2. I try to come back at night and greet my guests when I can, but I don't really have, other than catering, I don't really have a specific function because, again, the employees run the business.
So you work on the business, not in the business.
Absolutely. But
don't you think that's smart too?
I think it is, but
it's hard to do sometimes.
You have to work in the business to the extent that you lead by example. So you'll see me taking out trash and pulling chicken and sweeping the floor and doing whatever needs to be done if I see that it needs to be done. So you have to work in the business to set an example. But unless you're working on your business, I don't think you'll ever be truly successful.
It takes a long time, I think, for new entrepreneurs to learn that lesson. Did you read the book, The E-Myth?
No.
I can't believe it, because you read all the E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth.
It's on the list now.
And it's an old book, but it talks exactly about that, and you already do that.
Well, you know, sometimes it takes a while not only to acknowledge or recognize that, but to be able to turn that corner. Because initially, especially in a very small business, you were in there stocking flags, and you were in there
selling flags and sewing flags,
and you were doing everything yourself. And so it takes a while to be able. You said that you were able to finally hire an accountant. That's the smartest thing you could possibly have done. And but you have to work. You have to be able to at some point transition into being able to be strategic and not just tactical.
And I don't think that there's a specific day that there's a cutoff for that. You just have to keep your eyes open to know when you've trained somebody enough. Right. And I do believe that one of the challenges of entrepreneurs is hiring.
Absolutely.
Training.
I'm so glad you brought that up. It's the biggest thing. My philosophy is John Wooden, the legendary basketball coach, said there are two things that you can't coach: height and heart. To me, those two things are character and attitude. When I see a resume full of restaurant experience, it's a big red flag. You've got a lot to overcome if you walk in my door and all you've ever done is work in restaurants. I want somebody with a great attitude, a smile, a quick step, and the ability to go by the 4 R's, treat other people well. In other words, if your parents and your childhood friends didn't teach you to be a nice person, that's not something I'm going to do. You give me a chimpanzee, 2 bananas, and 30 minutes of his attention, and I'll give you someone that can perform a task. But I can't make you excited, and I can't make you want to have fun, and I can't make you nice to people. That's something that you hire. Those are attributes, not skills.
Do you hire the people at your place?
I do. I do all the hiring and the firing. We fired 80 people in the first 6 months, but now we just don't. That's not an issue now. The only people that leave us are people that maybe graduate from college or graduate from high school, move on and do something else.
Yeah, I think every time I've started a department, it seems like the very original people we start the department with end up not staying. There's a lot of turnover in the very beginning while you try to find your core people.
Absolutely.
That stay there. Well, it's been really good to talk to you. You are
Thank
a
you
wealth
so
of
much.
information. I think you should write a book.
That's what my wife says. Well,
Does she? I think so, too.
It's going to be called "It's So Not About the Slaw."
I like that. It's so not.
I really
about
appreciate you
the
having me
slaw.
on. I really do.
love it. I love it, and I love it that you're an old KABF.
Love KABF. Love the station. Love the people. Love what you guys do here.
People don't know this, but while we were on break, one of your old cronies came in here and gave you a big hug.
The Griff came in here, and I don't know if he still has Inside a Quiet Fire. I don't know what his show is now, but you got to catch his show on KABF. Robert Griffin.
And Tim, our technician today, he has a show on what time?
Wednesday nights, 9 to 11. I don't actually go by Tim. I use a stage name.
Oh, what is it?
Our show's called Phonomania, and I'm Lou Logger on that show, and my co-host is Bert Logger. We're the Logger brothers.
Oh,
And ladies, he's extremely handsome, and I don't see a wedding ring on his finger.
Nope, there's none there.
It's Wednesday nights. I don't think you and I'd probably like the music. It's probably alternative. I can't believe I haven't
We
listened.
play every
Oh,
genre.
no, actually, I
We play-
love alternative.
Well, there you
Everything
go.
under the sun. We don't have a set.
So,
type of
Rich, do you have any upcoming events or cook-offs? Is most of your business is most of your business catering, or is it in the restaurant?
It's definitely butts in seats.
Butts and seats.
Yeah, we do about.
And what's your hours?
We are open 10:30 a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. 6 days a week. We're closed on Sunday. We're the only whole hog in the country that does not open on Sunday.
So you're open 6 days a week.
That's right, 10:30 to 9. And you can call us at 501-753-9227. We're at 5107 Warden Road by the golf shop, right across the interstate from Gander Mountain.
Up there by McCain Mall. Mm-hmm. Yep, I've been there. Does the Whole Hog Cafe have one season that's busier than the other?
Oh, gosh, December, because the
Really?
catering is nuts. We cater to all the big companies around us, and we do shift work catering, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. December is by far the biggest.
So you probably have a staff. We've got to go here in a second, but you probably have a staff for one for the catering staff.
No, we all handle everything.
You just work them to death.
Well, they work
You're
themselves to
open
death.
6 days a week, 11 hours a day. That doesn't include cleanup or prep in the morning, and we cater.
I appreciate you, Kerry.
You are so welcome. Thank you for coming in. I forgot to bring you your cigar, so I'm going to mail it to you. But for coming on my show and birthing a business, you get a cigar from Colonial Wine and Spirits on Markham. It's a nice cigar, and I can't believe I left it. So I'm going to mail it to you.
All right.
Tim, do you know who our guest is next week?
No, I don't think you've told me yet.
I forgot to look that up. I can't remember who our guest is next week.
It'll be a surprise. We'll have someone good.
Yeah.
Timmy, keep your eyes on the road.
So to our listeners, if you have a great entrepreneurial story you would like to share, I would love to hear from you. Send a brief bio and your contact info to
questions@upyourbusiness.org.
and someone will be in touch. And finally, to our listeners, thank you for spending time with me. If you think this program has been about you, you're right, but it's also about me. Thank you for letting me fulfill my destiny. My hope today is that you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that it, whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next Friday at 2 p.m. on KABF Radio in Little Rock, Arkansas. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
You've been listening to Up in Your Business with Kerry McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. If you miss any part of the show or want to learn more about UIYB, go to flagandbanner.com and click on Radio Show. Like us on Facebook or subscribe to her weekly podcast wherever you like to listen. All interviews are recorded and posted the following week with links to resources you heard discussed on today's show. Underwriting opportunities available upon request. Kerry's goal is to help you live the American dream.